I'm Chad Ruthermond.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And welcome to NOCLIP Pocket. Move freely. Today, we're going to be talking about Rollerdrome, a game that was developed by Roll7, published by Private Division, released in 2022 on Windows, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X and S.
But first, if you give us a like or a rating, it would be greatly appreciated.
So Rollerdrome is a pretty interesting genre mash game, which is always my favorite way to start one of these.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a Tony Hawk styled extreme sports rollerblading game, and also an arena shooter. Which debatably, it's kind of like a movement shooter as a genre, but like it's focused a lot on its movement, and getting combos and shit. So take that and call it whatever you want.
Yeah, and if you're at all familiar with the stupid 80s movie Rollerball, it's also like a weird rollerblading blood sport.
Yeah, like a Smash TV
Mm-hmm.
or anything in that vein. It's very funny because like I feel like Rollerball is like its number one inspiration here.
Like
because
aesthetically.
Yeah, because like the game also takes place in 2030,
Mm-hmm.
which is so unreasonably close to now.
Yeah, and but it looks like it's the 1970s.
Yep. It really is like that perfect like retro futuristic thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know if that's what we want to talk about right now, but yeah,
might as well. Like I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast or in real life, but like I feel like in fiction, if you're gonna set it in the future, whatever year you're thinking, add 20 years to it.
Yeah,
because like it always feels really silly when you set it in the near future. Like 2030.
We did talk about this on the podcast, but I can't remember what episode it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was like this year, though, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was like Signalis or something. I don't remember. But I think I agree with you 99% of the time, but I think that is part of this game's, like, joke. Like, I think that's part of, like, its aesthetic, is it wants to be what we thought the future of 2030 would look like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, or I guess 40 years ago. Christ almighty. Thank God I'm canonically 19, because I would feel very old if I was more over 30 right
Getting
now.
older all the time.
But feeling younger in my mind.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, while this game does not have a banger soundtrack that includes Goldfinger, it is like, I don't know, aesthetically speaking, I think that it hits the mark. It's very sort of utilitarian. I feel like it's not flashy in its visuals. I really like the style, this like cell shaded style that it uses for the actual graphics, but it's used to mostly create wooden ramps.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like there are a few standout levels. Like I like the Arctic level with the half pipes on top of buildings that have like the holes in between.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't like scream as like as flashy as this game wants to be. The aesthetics never really get there, at least for me.
Yeah. It looks nice. It has that like Borderlands-y kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Where it's like the bold flat colors with like the inked looking outline. Yeah, and I think you're correct. It is like utilitarian. Like it makes it like this game moves really fast, and in order to like keep track of everything and where you are and the enemies and the projectiles are, it has like a simplified visual look. Like there aren't a bunch of particle effects or fancy lighting. It's just like color, you know, like and it works really well. I think it's just like as stylish as it can be, while still trying to make it look simple.
Yeah, and the utility is necessary to an extent. If it was really flashy, this game would be even harder than it already is. which I'm sure will be a major topic of discussion coming up. But the way that the game looks, like, it does make me, like, when I saw this game advertised the first time, I was like 1,000,000,000% sure that it was gonna be published by Devolver Digital, because they publish these types of like low-ish budget indie titles with like sort of an irreverent sense about them. They were the original publishers of like Hotline Miami and its sequel and stuff. And so that was like the first place my head went.
Yeah.
I was like, definitely that's what this is. Kind of like I now apparently have a sixth sense for Tango Gameworks fucking weird bullshit.
Yeah.
Now I'm like
Annapurna as well.
Yeah. With the fucking art house studios. But yeah, this was not published by them. It is its own thing, but it is it is striking to look at originally, and then it melts just into a regular utility driven visual style that I was a little bit disappointed with.
Yeah, and like the environments don't like help. You know, like there are like, you know, like your indoor like roller derby style arenas, then there's like desert arena, and then there's like snow arena, and like that's it. So like, if they had like a little bit more like visual variety, it might help it out in that sense. But yeah.
I mean, and we can use this as a transition point, because the thing that I'm gonna want to compare this game to a lot is Tony Hawk, obviously. And I think we talked about this on the Tony Hawk retrospective episode that we did, but like this game, like when you play Tony Hawk, the levels that you remember are like cruise ship, foundry, not all of the levels that take place in competition skate parks,
right?
Which is what this game is. Like everyone is a competition skate park level. They say it's a mall, but that's just a 2-story competition skate park.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, like this obviously, I don't think it detracts too heavily, but it would have gone a long way to make this game stand out as like something that I would actively go out and be like, look at this fucking piece of work. Which I still want to do, but is not quite the same.
Yeah. It almost kind of feels like it has a little bit of that Mirror's Edge problem, where it's like a like sci-fi future kind of like aesthetic and theme, but it doesn't really like do much with that. You're just like in Mirror's Edge, you're just like in a city, and you know, like it doesn't really like go into like why there are runners who deliver like messages by parkouring on the rooftops. Like I think like if this game had a little bit more to its story, or like a little bit more of like a weird sci-fi something else going on to like add more like visual variety or weird shit going on, that could also help, I would think.
Yeah, I think that is exactly what it is. Like both this and Mirror's Edge have a very light story. Mirror's Edge is a game that actually has cutscenes and like backstory that you can read, where the explanation for why the runners are there is actually in the content of the game. But it's not like, I think that you have to be very into it to actually seek it out and put it together. Whereas with this game, I mean, they tell you stuff in Mirror's Edge. It has a narrative that you can follow beat to beat, where this game doesn't. But they have a similar light on the story elements feel to them. And this one especially. Like, if you look, I think this game relies a lot more on just sort of tropes of the genre to get across. Like, the plot of this game is essentially Squid Game, where the main character has taken out a loan to join this thing, and they have to win or else they won't be able to pay it back, and then they'll die of capitalism. So their choice is die of capitalism or die of gunshots on roller skates.
I mean, but I do think that is like a pretty solid comparison.
Yeah. However, the comparison in the gameplay has to go to the Tony Hawk games. Or rather, that's what I would have said I now am not 100% sure where I fall on this.
Yeah.
The actual movement of this game feels like Tony Hawk and feels like they specifically wanted to like emulate that in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to hold forward to move forward, but everyone will. You hold down the A button to jump. The grab and flip are switched, which irritates me, and they're not actually switched because where the grab would be is the dodge button. And then where the flip tricks would be are where your grab tricks are, and then you can rotate around with the R button, which we've seen in other games, but it's not a Tony Hawk thing. How many people do you think that you know who have played Tony Hawk?
Oh god, I don't know.
Like a bunch of people.
Yeah, we're in our 30s, so I feel like most men our age.
Yeah. And of the people that you know personally who have played Tony Hawk, do you think any of them are... This is not a flex, by the way. Any of them are better than I am at Tony Hawk?
I've not personally seen anybody play Tony Hawk better than you.
Yeah. So, and this isn't a flex. This is why. Thank you. Godlike gamer over here. The reason I bring it up, the reason that I limit it to people that you know, is because I am not like a professional Tony Hawk player. It's just a game series that I've been playing for an extremely long time, and have like a reflex too.
I mean, I think you are better at Tony Hawk than I've ever been at any game. So you probably could have been a professional Tony Hawk player.
This is a missed opportunity in my life. But the reason I bring it up is because I thought that those skills would translate well into this game, and I was smacked silly by this game a million billion times. This game is so hard.
Yes.
And it's difficult to get, like, good at. I feel like this... I beat the game in a single sitting, and during that time, I could feel myself getting better and realizing that if this was a game that I was just playing for fun, that I probably would want to continue to improve and get better at and play for longer, but because of the podcast, I'm not going to do it. But it felt like a very different skill set, despite how similar the mechanics feel.
Yeah. I feel like it does feel like Tony Hawk in the game feel to, like, move around. But, like, I feel like the way they've, like, simplified it, like, you can't fall and, like, a number of other things, like, make it feel very different. Like, you don't have to think about it as much. And I kind of like something like a Platinum game, like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry. I had, like, my go-to tricks I would just always do to refill my ammo, so I didn't have to think about it, because the game is super hard. And I'm trying to focus on not getting hit. But yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that, as well, that you didn't take to it more. Like, your Tony Hawk skills didn't translate. Because, like, I found it so hard. I thought we were going to come in here and you were going to be, like, not thinking it was easy, but, like, having, like, a much easier time with it than me. Kind of like Ghost Runner or something.
Yeah. Ghost Runner, to me, ends up being the closest actual comparison of something that we've talked about on the podcast, because it is, like, it is such a... it's one of those games that, like, when you become proficient at it and you go back to when you were brand new, you would be like, what the fuck was I doing? Because you pick up all of these, like, little things along the way that make you better and better. And but there's so many of them. And at this point, I know that I still probably play this game like somebody who's missing half their brain.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, it really is there isn't, like, a smooth curve so much as there is a brick wall that you scale over time.
Yeah, like, it's, like, broken up like a tournament bracket. But it's like, so the first, like, 4 levels, like, I feel like each one feels like a pretty big spike. Like, the first one's, like, pretty easy, and then the second one, like, it's way harder. It's like, okay, here's some bottomless pits, fucker.
It took me, like, I didn't realize until the second level how important combos were. So my, like, to me, the spike was level 3,
Yeah.
because it was like level 1 I beat with no problem and got
Yeah.
like a C rating. And then level 2 I beat keeping in mind combos and got an A plus rating, not quite to S, like halfway up the A like rank. And then the third level was like D.
Oh, yeah.
When I finished it, like, it just fucking beat me down. I was like, oh, I get it now with that A ranking. I was like, I feel super great about that. Maybe I'll go back and do the first level again. And then it was just grueling learning and being shot down for the next 6 hours.
Yeah, yeah, and then I thought the fourth level was a huge spike too. And then I feel like after those first 4, it levels out a little bit more to a more like reasonable curve, but still has spikes.
Yeah.
But this game is the first game I ever used in assist mode on. Because I found it that difficult.
I mean, I think that's fair, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, if Ghost Runner had one, I should have used that too. Because I thought that was actually harder than this. But, personally. But, yeah, so it allows you to do a number of things. So what I did was I turned down the damage scaling to 70%.
Oh, okay.
So I'm 70% of a gamer, if you want to measure it.
Yeah, no, I did not. I didn't even know that there was an assist mode.
Yeah, like, I wanted to change. I was like, is there a difficulty mode? Like, can I change this to easy mode? The answer is kind of yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Like, I mean, I went into Persona 5, a game that is not notorious for its difficulty whatsoever, and just sat down and said, I'm playing this on easy and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And I enjoyed the game more, I think, because of it. So, absolutely no shame. I think this game absolutely requires, I think, an assist mode, because for some people, it's just going to be impossible. You could have beaten your head against it, but
yeah, no, yeah, I think I could have beaten it, but I would need like 2 months.
Yeah, it's just more time.
But no, I also turned off, like, you can turn off the need to do enough challenges to unlock the levels. I ended up having to resort to that in the second half as well.
That would have shaved some time off of my playthrough, because when I got to the end, I was like, I kept going through it like, okay, I need to complete like, I have 3 levels and I need to complete 12 challenges in these 3 levels and I won't have to go back. And I got like 2 and 1. And I was like, how is this stonewalling me so hard? But I think honestly it's kind of a positive thing, at least like in the grand scope of the game, because when I went back to play like the older levels, I felt like I just sucked at the game. Like, for the majority of the time I was playing, I felt like everything was like a real struggle to get through. Mostly positively, but I'll talk about a few places where I think it pushes things a little bit too much. But then when I went back to play the first couple of levels to like clear out challenges so I could get enough to enter the finals, I was like, oh, like I actually have improved. And also you have access to your full arsenal, but honestly, I don't think that makes nearly as much of a difference as just like what you've learned. And I was able to go through and just like 100% get all of the challenges on the first 4 stages without issue.
Yeah, I feel like that's where your Tony Hawk playing comes in handy. Or maybe it's just the difference in, I don't know, reading comprehension. So I look at that list, and then I unpause, and I'm like, I can't remember anything I was supposed to do. And it also makes me feel like a child, where like I'm just like, especially in Tony Hawk, because it's like you have to do all these button combinations to do things. So I'm like looking at the controller, being like, what buttons?
You're leaning left and right while you're playing.
Tongue out.
Well, that was as one point against my reading comprehension. I know there was one stage, the stage that has the first spider tank boss, a stage that I've already brought up, actually, the one with the 4 islands. And the trick that you had to do next to the trick was the trick token to get the challenge was a corpse a coffin grab. Yeah. You have to do a coffin grab. And I did it over and over and over again, like over and over. Like I was like 4 minutes, and I was like, do I have to clear the gap? Do I have to do it from the bottom coming out? What am I doing wrong? And eventually I paused and checked the list, and it was like, also it has to be a flip. And I was like, fuck. Or no, it had to be a 540. That was the one thing I wasn't doing. I wasn't spinning enough. So I just misread it and wasted like 6 minutes just doing one trick over and over again. So
yeah. I did that early on with like, it was like kill so many enemies in like the super reflex mode.
Oh yeah.
And I was just trying to do it with the regular like time stop mode or whatever. Regular.
Yeah, well, it's called reflex. Yeah.
with just
reflex.
And then I had not internalized that mechanic yet.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a few things that referred to super reflex, otherwise I wouldn't have noticed that it had a different name. But yeah, I think honestly we should talk about the mechanics, because it is a really interesting game, and it's really complex in terms, or it's not so complex that it's unreadable, but it is very complex in terms of like what all of your tools are at any given moment. So it allows for a lot of expression. Basically, it's like the Tony Hawk movement. So you steer with left and right, and they actually go left and right like a tank control game. It's not like a regular joystick control game, and it will fuck you up if you're used to this. You can jump and grind. You can do grab tricks and flips. And then most importantly, which we haven't really talked about at all, you have guns. You have pistols, a shotgun, a grenade launcher, and then like a laser charge up gun. And so your goal in each level is just to kill all of the enemies without dying yourself. And then if you are feeling particularly froggy, you can also go for some of the challenges. Your first time through, and I have to assume that this was true as well for you, you're not really thinking about the challenges. You're just like, good Lord, how am I going to get through this? Yeah, I don't know. I kept like coming back to things and just being... every level, I think, had a point in it, like one wave, where I went like, I don't know, there's so much on screen, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. But I found it pretty fun to like work out how, like, where my target priority should be and stuff like that. Like, I thought the laser gun was a great addition in terms of like the gameplay, because it can basically kill most things under the right circumstances. You like stop seeing the sniper guys as enemies and more ways to trigger the super reflex so that you can deal more damage to kill the laser beam guys in a single hit with the down gun, with the laser gun. Like, there's a lot of that stuff that you just sort of like have to categorize in your head in order to get good at this game. And I only ever got like halfway, I'm pretty sure, but it was it was quite an uphill battle.
Yeah. For me, like, just like getting a handle on dodging well was like made the most difference. I know, like, I feel like, yeah, like I realized that, like, or at least I think the idea is to stop playing defensively and like learn how to play offensively by using the dodge, like things like you're saying, triggering the super reflex by like skating into a landmine so that you can perfect dodge it, or you know, and like doing things that you would have avoided before. But like, yeah, like you said, like I never got 100% there. And yeah, like it's very difficult. Like I found it, like I would often like start to go up a ramp right as like a laser was turning white, and it's like you got to like hit B on the end of the ramp and kind of like do a weird, like you had to stop doing the trick that you were gonna do and like do a different thing. Like you hit like a bunch of weird little friction points that you had to learn how to deal with.
Yeah, and also I can't. This is like where my Tony Hawk experience actually hurt me, is that I kept wanting to continue trick combos. Like,
Mm.
I wanted to land with a revert into a manual and, like, do more things, which is not how this game functions at all. And so, like, my head was always in two places for, like, the first several levels. But yeah, no, you're right. I'm reasonably certain that whoever made the decision that the lasers were going to be red when they were safe and white when they were about to fire is somebody who just specifically hates me, because I found that so hard to get my head around. I was like, white shouldn't be the dodge, it should be red. And so I had to, like, really buckle down, and I would not notice when something was going to shoot me sometimes, because instinctively in my head, white does not mean dodge. Red means dodge.
Did you have, like, a particular enemy that you hated the most to deal with?
I mean, I think if I imagine, and maybe I'm wrong, because I did play this sort of in isolation, right? Like, I played this and didn't talk to anybody else about it. But my thought process is that if you made this like a Twitter poll and said, here are the enemies in Rollerdrome, which one fucking sucks? The answer everyone is going to give is the laser enemy that shoots laser beams that light the ground on fire.
Oh, yeah, the blue fire guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my answer, too.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking, I hate that guy so much.
Yeah,
that one is specifically female, I guess.
Yeah, that had such so much build up. I thought I was gonna disagree with what you said.
No. I was kind of hoping it would be better for content.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna be like, obviously
disagree.
the tanks or whatever,
Yeah.
like they're big robots or something.
The tanks do get annoying in a few levels because they'll spawn like 4 of them.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
they're like,
you just have to keep doing tricks to refill the grenade launchers.
Yeah, they're kind of fun to fight, though. I thought
that's fair. I think
as long as there aren't too many fire guys running around or ladies, fire ladies.
Yeah, well, there's the level that has, God, how do I describe the canyon level where you like jump in. And I don't know, it's a canyon.
I think I know the one.
Okay. That one I kept like there's a wave that spawns 2 tanks, and I would always get confused as to which one I had destroyed the flamethrowers on, and then I would casually skate by one of them and it would burn me.
Yeah.
And that would frequently cause me to die.
Yeah, I had that problem when they first introduced, so like the second level. But like the rocket launcher guys, like I was like not used to like tracking the rockets. I would like turn around and take like 6 of them in the face. Like, oh, oops.
I so frequently ignored the rockets that at the final boss, which I do want to talk about, I died so many times just from letting it get so bad that there was like a swarm of dozens of them. And like part of my strategy planning on how to actually beat the boss involved me going, remember, they're going to shoot 1,000,000 rockets at you, and you have to actually shoot them and not just skate around. So that was like, it was, I don't know, it really sort of enforced a bad habit in me. But yeah, they're also kind of annoying. They get a lot better once you have the charge up gun. Yeah. Because you just kill them. Whereas before, like, I think no matter what you did, unless you were in super reflex, they would always get one phase where they're in the shield.
You could kill them fast enough.
Okay.
With just the pistols. I think they take like exactly 12 bullets, and if you like hesitate at all, they'll put the shield up. But if you just mash on the trigger, you can kill them before they put it up.
Yeah, and that's true of the snipers as well. You can kill them with a full clip from the pistols.
Yeah, I think they only take 8 shots.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's...
I just finished the game today, so
it's
it's fresher in the memory banks.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I think they only take like 4 when you're in super reflex, which is very convenient. But yeah, that's I found the mechanics to be really engaging. I thought it's super good. I wish this is, and fucking mark this down in the history books. It's going to be one of the only times that I ever say it. I wish this game was a little bit longer, specifically so that it could have a smoother difficulty curve and really get you acclimated to the systems. Because,
I agree.
oof, yeah.
Either a bit longer, to smooth out the curve, or just smooth out the curve and leave it the same length.
I think, to me, I would have felt...
You'd have to make it less difficult to do that.
Yeah.
So if you want to maintain the challenge, you got to make it longer a little bit.
And the funny thing is, when you beat the game, you unlock a mode that is just the main campaign but harder, which I, of course, did not beat because that's ridiculous. I think it's called like the Out for Blood campaign or something.
Something like that.
Yeah. And that is like the game. Like, why is the easier version of the game so hard? So hard that I was too intimidated to even begin the harder version of the campaign. I'm not playing the Master Quest mode of Rollerdrome. I do not feel prepared.
So you want to talk about that boss fight?
I do.
With the spider robot?
And I like the way that you phrased it as well, because it is in fact just one boss fight twice.
Yeah.
I don't love to complain. I kind of do. I do complain about bosses a lot. And after fighting the spider boss the first time, I was like, I kind of liked that.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool, actually. To like, it incorporates the mechanics well. Like, I think that's the mark of like a good boss fight. You had to skate up him and shoot his weak points while in the reflex mode. Like, it just felt like it made sense.
Yeah, like the best part of Solar Ash being the bosses. I feel like that just skate on a thing that's trying to kill you is just such an inherently cool concept that it's hard to go wrong. I like that his ass is a quarter pipe. That's great. I like that I can skate and do a fucking melancholy over some missile launchers on a big spider's ass.
Yeah, like it could have easily just been a big tanky thing that did a bunch of damage to you that you had to shoot with a grenade launcher. You know, like I like that it like because that was the first thing I tried to do, shot it with the grenade launcher and it doesn't do anything. So yeah, and like I have to skate up it.
Yeah, skate up it and do the thing.
Yeah, that's
hit the weak points.
The much more fun and interesting thing.
You have to hit the giant enemy spider in his weak points.
Yes.
This is a classic E3 callback, obviously.
Yeah, you gotta shoot him in the eye of Goma.
And but then I want to talk about that boss fight a second time.
Right.
Which is the final boss, which I absolutely hated. It was so weird going from a boss that I liked and then seeing it again in a context that made me despise it. The whole game, just to touch on the narrative a little bit, the whole game you're being antagonized by your like rival skater, the guy who's on the inside and is being like sort of helped through by the company that is sponsoring him in the Rollerdrome tournament. And Casper Ick, I think is his name, which is a comically evil name.
Yes, I wasn't sure how to pronounce that last name, but
I'm not sure either. Yeah. There's like a X and a Z in it. I don't remember.
I feel like one of those classic things where I just saw it and pronounced it in my head a certain way without knowing if it's the correct way. I think I pronounced it like ilk or something.
Okay.
But I have no idea if that's at all close.
We'll just call him Casper.
Yeah, like ILYX is what I'm imagining in my head.
I don't think that's how it's spelled, but it could be. I don't. Anyway, I think there's a C in there.
Probably. Anyway, continue.
But it's like that's like the whole narrative part. There are these actually pretty cool first-person interstitial sections where you wander around in the locker room or on a train, and you find these little bits and pieces of like newspaper stories that build out the world and give context to what's going on, like within Rollerdrome, the corporation. And then the boss is just the spider tank again. Like it feels like it should have built up to a showdown with Casper.
Yeah.
In some way.
I was very surprised that didn't happen.
Yeah. Like I was imagining like a Green from Neon White style boss fight.
Yeah. Like a
That's
classic
not what we
like style boss fight that you don't like, where you go up against somebody that's like the same as you.
Yeah, that has all the same moves as you. Yeah. That is a classic boss fight I don't like. But, and I don't want to judge this one based on what it wasn't, because what it was sucks also. And that is, it's the same boss as before, but now he has like a few different moves, and he's in a much larger arena.
Yeah, or at least have like a different like robot that he's like obviously piloting or something.
Yeah.
You know, like that, and like another weird robot you have to skate on or whatever. It does feel like a very strange like point of like dissonance or however you want to describe it, where it's like it feels like it's setting up for that and it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and then the other problem is just this game is very much set up for macro movement, essentially, like being able to plan out lines and routes and hit things or whatever. But in this boss fight, you have to navigate through obstacles while avoiding attacks onto a narrow ramp in the form of its leg. And if you get there when it isn't doing an attack, it does this awkward stomp attack that you have to either jump over or dodge. And if you dodge it, you're not going to be able to skate up it unless you just were straight on the whole time. And the arena's much more cramped than it was before, because even though it's a bigger arena, there's like all these ramps and shit everywhere now. So like, I found this to be a really frustrating boss fight, like more so than the levels, which were also hard. This felt like doing the same thing over and over again and getting different results every time. Like, it was hard for me to come up with a strategy to actually finish it. And it ended up taking me like 40 minutes or something to actually beat the boss, like many, many tries. And I don't know. I don't like that it wasn't different.
Yeah, that stings.
And I don't like it. I didn't really like playing it. So it kind of ended the game on sort of a down for me.
Yeah. I didn't have quite as hard of a time with it, but I did lower the difficulty. So, yeah, like it was annoying. Like you'd have to like bait out the range attack and then turn around and go so you could skate up the leg without him moving it. And surprisingly easy to miss the ramp. Yeah. Or at least I thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one of my biggest problems with it. It's just hard to miss that ramp. Or hard to hit the ramp.
Yeah. But and
sometimes you go over top of it, and then somebody with a laser gun shoots at you, and you have to dodge, so you lose your mid-air control, and then you go over top of him and land on the other side.
I never tried to fight the boss directly before killing all the dudes in the arena.
Yeah, sometimes I just had to, because I was at like high health and didn't want to risk taking more damage.
That makes sense.
Whereas if you were at low health, then you have to kill the guys to get health from them. Which is another bit of mechanic. A little Doom 2016 action. The only way to heal is by killing other things. So, once again, the arena parts of this game, very cool.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think like I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I meant to. Just like the act of like having to do tricks to reload the guns, I think does like it's surprising how well that unites the two genres. Yeah. It like makes them go together. It feels surprisingly natural to be doing the Tony Hawk stuff to get more ammo to do the Doom stuff.
Yeah. I think the biggest falling out for me is just like you have to do the Tony Hawk stuff, but the game doesn't reward you for being very good at the Tony Hawk stuff. It rewards you for being good. Like, it's just a different skill, but they do mesh a bit. It's like a weird, like, I don't know, half and half bleed over.
Yeah, I think they had to, like, simplify the movement, though, or else it would be like playing two different video games at the same time.
Which would be a little hard.
Yeah, so I think they simplified the correct things in my book.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that you should, like, fall down if you land sideways. Like, that would be very bad in this game. It's much too hard to track all of the things. Also, the dodge is very spammable. Like, if you're in a really bad situation, it's actually easy to get out of it. But then you're stuck at low health and have to go kill something, and sometimes that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And that's only a concern when, like us, you're bad at the game. When you're good at the game, you have to kill stuff quickly in order to maintain your combo, which is much harder to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a good time. Huh? Do we have irritating blue fire thoughts?
For sure you're gonna pull out some kind of skate trick name. Starting with an F. But my irritating blue fire thoughts, or whatever you said, are I found this game to be a little bit disappointing because of how hard it was. It looks so cool, like rollerblade Tony Hawk-esque like arena shooter game. Sounds awesome. And it starts out that way, it starts out like pretty simple, like comprehensive tutorial, easy first level, but then it spikes really hard like right away. So I think the difficulty ended up being like tough to swallow for me, and I had to end up using the assist mode, which I don't feel like bad about, but like in terms of like my pride or anything, but like it makes me feel like I like wish I could have pushed through and gotten like the intended experience. But aside from the difficulty though, like the movement feels super satisfying and good. It feels good to move around. Like it's one of those games where like it feels easy to like just get into the flow of like just like skating around and shooting stuff. So I think it accomplishes that really well. And like the spots where it shines pretty bright, but for me it lacked in enough ways that like I was left feeling kind of middling about it, unfortunately.
I think that's fair. I wouldn't say that I'm disappointed with the game as much as I am disappointed in myself. But it is like it's one of those games where if you aren't able to connect on a very purely mechanical level, then the game does not do enough outside of that to bring it up for everyone else. Like, it's not like this game was really hard, but I turned on the assist mode so that the mechanics were easier, but I really enjoyed the narrative, or I really liked the art or the music. Like, those things are all good, but they're all like good enough. None of them really like. I always hate to say that about music, because for somebody, this game had like a killer soundtrack, and like I thought it was fine. But none of it really jumped out at me in the way that other games have. But like none of it is so good, at least in my opinion, that not being able to connect with the mechanics would save it. That being said, I feel like I really did connect with the mechanics. I played this in a single sitting, so it was like I couldn't just get up and leave. Like I was chained to my chair until I finished the game. Because it was very compelling to me, and I felt like I did need to like keep playing and get better. And it is possible that I had kind of a basis to build on going in, so I may have had a bit of an advantage there. But yeah, I think the game's very cool. I think that the core mechanics that it sets up are very strong, and with the exception of the fact that like the game operates on kind of a wave-based system where the enemies spawn in, which might be complicated. I feel like a level editor for this would be incredibly cool. I would love to see somebody try and build out from these mechanics more levels that sit on different parts of the difficulty curve to really expand like what is possible with this. Not that I don't like what's here, it just feels very grueling from the beginning to the end. And I don't know, that just like it becomes kind of like just soul crushing at a certain point. So I like the game. I would recommend this to people generally speaking, but I think that it is very tough, and like I found myself in certain places wishing that things that they went a little bit easier on me every once in a while. Thank you for listening to NOCLIP Pocket this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to talk about The Fall, which is a 2D puzzle game that we're poaching off of the Mystery May list to fill a slot.
Yeah. If I'm remembering it correctly, I think it's kind of like a 2.5D where it's like rendered in 3D but on a 2D plane, and it feels like it's kind of like a mix between like an adventure game and like a what's it called? Like Another World? Do they call that like or Odd World?
Oh, like a cinematic platformer.
Like it's kind of like a cinematic platformer, but with no platforming.
Yeah.
Just it's like a cinematic adventure game.
It's like a cinematic adventure game. It's like very cinematic. You'll never believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're misremembering. In which case you shouldn't believe it. Make sure you always do your own research. Unlike us. But until that time, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at noclippodcast.com or on splattershot.pro, which I just re-upped for another year.
Nice.
4 more years of splattershot.pro. There you can find links to our email address, our Twitter account, our YouTube channel, and you can find all of our old episodes, including ones that we did on the Tony Hawk series, and Tunic, which also we did this month and was really hard.
Ghost Runner is a very hard game.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Mirror's Edge earlier, so
which are all games that we have talked about. Yeah, fucking, this has been like. Not like No Nut November, but like crushed our nuts November.
I'm surprised that you found Tunic overall as hard as you did.
It was.
I didn't really
game,
come
dude.
up in conversation on the episode, but
I found it to be hard.
Yeah,
as well as this game, and I did not find Mario to be hard yet. So we'll see what happens with that. Shoot that like button.
Activate Super Reflex to ring that bell and leave a comment in the comment section at the same time.
Dodge the bell and use the perfect dodge timing to activate Super Reflex in the comment section. Later, goodbye. See you guys. Welcome to the Mr. Game Menards Game Goblin Throat Blast.
I'm Goblin Estevez.